Well, hey friends, welcome back. This is day 19 of our 25-day Christmas Advent watercolor paint-along, and today we are going to be painting a sweet little Christmas tree getting hauled home on a sled. So before we jump in, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the rest of the series, and go ahead and tap the like button if you're painting along with me today. It really helps this video reach more people. So let's grab our supplies and get your paper ready, and we'll start with a simple sketch. Now I'm going to just make a little old-fashioned sled. We're going to be super simple today with our sketch. We just want a little platform for our sled. And let's get some runners. You can get a little fun on the front of those runners. And give it a little character. Now I am freehanding this, but as always, if you prefer tracing to freehand sketching, you can always find the template on my website. All right, let's add a little tree trunk here. And then we're gonna add some main branches going out. We're just gonna add, the further up the tree they go, the smaller, shorter they're gonna get. Super simple. Now let's wet our watercolors here. I'm going to start with just the brown for our sled and our trunk. I'm going to do the trunk second. I want it to be able to react with the pine branches or pine needles as I put those on, and them to be able to interact together just a little bit. So I'm going to do my tree trunk second. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to use some medium brown. And let's vary up our colors just a little bit so it gets a little interesting. This is going to be more the chocolatey brown. It's a little bit warmer than that medium brown. Now underneath is going to have that shadow, so I'm going to use some Van Dyke brown to get these attachment points on. And then we'll just add the runners on here. All right, once you have your sled in, I'm going to use that chocolate brown again, and I'm just going to go down the center trunk here, narrow at the top, and kind of put a little more pressure on your brush as you slowly go towards the bottom of the trunk, so it kind of taper kind of naturally. And then I'm going to more pressure as it's attaching to the trunk and let off the pressure as it's coming away, so it'll be tapered. All right. We're rinse our brush, and I am going to go into using this brush here. It's a fairly narrow brush. It comes to a really nice point. And I'm going to start with my deep green. It can also be a hooker's green if that's what you have. Start out with some more concentrated colors, and I'm going to just be real loose with my strokes here. We're going to go in with some olive green. We want some variation in our green tones. And we'll just add some little swoops in here with this green. The lower the branches go, the further out I am getting my pine needles. You're getting that nice kind of tree skirt, you know, that nice little inverted cone kind of look. Now, to make these nice little marks, I'm putting more pressure and then letting up fairly quickly. As I move my brush, and that's going to help create that kind of delicate petal-like almost look. Vary the sizes, the lengths of all these. Let's give it some variation, and it makes it, you know, a little bit more organic in its form looking. All right. Now, you could be done with this if you wanted to be, but we're going to dress it up just a little bit and make it a little more fun. So I'm going to take my larger brush, get into my Payne's Gray. I want it fairly diluted, so we'll just make a little bit of snow drifts here. Maybe some little tracks for the sled to be running through. And I also want to add some little ornaments to the tree. So I'm going to use my Dr. P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. And we'll go in and add a few white bulbs here and there. Now, if you find your tree is still kind of damp, just be real gentle with your bulb additions here so you don't disturb your paint too much. Now, I'm also going to add a few little yellow glowy lights. I'm going to take a smaller brush and I'm going to drop my water on here. It's kind of hard to see. Well, you can see because it picked up that green. I'm just going to add little dots of water here and there around the tree. You're going to want to try and leave your pine needles as undisturbed as possible, because this will definitely cause some bleeding in your greenery, just like it did up here for me. But you can always go in with a kind of dry brush and pull most of that out. And add another dot of water, just the tiniest bit further away. And I'm going to take my golden yellow here and just barely touch inside those little water droplets that I added. It might be kind of hard to see where they are, so just move your head around. See if you can find where you left them. You can very gently pick up your paper and kind of move it around too to see. Now, I also want to add just a couple colored ornaments here. We're going to go with a little bit non-traditional color. I'm going to use this small brush here, and I'm going to go into my fuchsia color. And we'll just add little fuchsia ornaments here and there around the branches. And I'm going to add a few ultramarine blue ones as well. I want something that's not quite so concentrated. So if you feel like it's a little bit too much concentrated, you can always dab your brush and try again. All right, I'm just gonna take a damp, clean brush and go back and kind of soften up some of these ornaments. I'm just going in a circle around them. You can also do the same thing to the yellow lights if you want them a little bit more glowy looking versus more of a harsh outline. All right, now let's just add a tiny little highlight on these bulbs. And finally, let's add a little bit of a background here. We don't want our tree to kind of feel almost naked here. It's kind of out in the big white world, and it's just kind of boring and sad. And if you, I grew up in Michigan. I lived there almost my entire life. And if you've ever lived through a Michigan winter, Midwest winter, you know what those gray, kind of sad skies are like all winter. So let's not leave this poor tree in some sad gray sky. Let's give him a nice, pretty blue sky. I've got kind of a cobalt blue here, and I'm not gonna dab the whole thing. I'm just gonna be real gentle and almost scribbly here. It's gonna give you a little bit of a cloud effect. And I'm also going to add a really diluted green down here. Like you're out in maybe the forest and found your tree. We're gonna be, go Clark Griswold on this. All right. There we are. We have a nice little tree being brought home on the sled. I'm gonna sign this. Now this is a nice one to kind of practice a few little of these brush strokes on, to get your thicker to thin brush strokes, and getting some of your wet on wet techniques down. So that is our day 19 of our 25-day Advent watercolor paint along. If you enjoyed painting this cute little Christmas tree with me, I'd love for you to leave a comment below and tell me how it went. You know, if you want to use some different colors for your bulbs and your ornaments, go ahead, make it your own. That's what the fun part of art is. You can always make it your own. And don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can join me for the rest of the Advent series. And if you're looking for templates, private classes, or live painting sessions, you can find all of that information on my website. And I will see you tomorrow for day 20.